You know how people say you shouldn't invest in anything you don't understand? Well, I currently have a huge part of my net worth invested in Bitcoin. So I thought it would be best to learn a little bit more about Bitcoin. And if I'm learning about Bitcoin, why not make a YouTube video about it, right? I'm Nathan, and this is 5 Minute Stories. The real estate and stock market crash of 2008 is something we have all heard about, so I won't go into much detail here. But to put it simply, banks messed around with our money too much and ended up not being able to pay back their debts. This financial irresponsibility from the organizations that we trust the most with our life savings left a big impact on a lot of people. There was no more trust in the banks, so some people decided they didn't need the banks at all. They could forge their own way in the world. In fact, they didn't even need the US dollar. They didn't even need paper. This is 2008 after all. The whole world is digital. You could just get on your brand new iPhone 3G and have digital money on the internet. Some person or group of people named Satoshi Nakamoto decided to do just that. And on January 3rd, 2009, Bitcoin was born. Now, we have to talk about how Bitcoin actually works. You see, there's no central government or leader that can just print Bitcoin. You have to mine Bitcoin. But before you run to go get your pickaxe, let's learn how you actually mine Bitcoin. Because there is no central authority who controls Bitcoin, it's run on the blockchain. This means that a network of nodes, or computers, all work together to keep an online record of transactions on the blockchain. Running the code to add and verify these transactions takes a lot of computing power, because the computers have to solve complex mathematical problems. To reward the computers for completing these tasks, new Bitcoin are allocated to them. Kind of like how you give your dog a treat for rolling over, except with a lot more zeros on the end. For completing a block of transactions, a computer is rewarded with the current rate of 6.25 Bitcoin, or about $125,000 at the time of making this video. Now that we know how Bitcoin is mined, let's go back to our friend, Satoshi Nakamoto. In the first 7 months after Bitcoin's launch, Satoshi mined 1.1 million Bitcoin, which today is worth about, get this, $22 billion. At the time though, this massive amount of Bitcoin was worth somewhere around $0. In fact, most early adopters of Bitcoin didn't even value it as a financial asset, but rather just as a cool technology that could be used for a variety of purposes. The first real transaction that was made with Bitcoin was in 2010, when some guy in Florida paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 Papa John's pizzas, or about $100 million per pizza in today's money. I'm sure it was a good pizza though. In April 2011, 1 Bitcoin was finally worth over $1. The value of the coin kept growing slowly until it was worth $13 in 2013. This was the year when Bitcoin made a name for itself as a valuable financial asset. In the year 2013, the value of 1 Bitcoin went from $13 to $1,100. In 1 year, Bitcoin had a 6,600% return on investment. Obviously, with these kinds of returns, there had to be some crazy success stories, right? Yep. One guy named Mr. Smith invested $3,000 in Bitcoin in 2010, back when it was about 15 cents per coin. This means he bought about 20,000 Bitcoin. By 2013, his $3,000 of Bitcoin were worth $22 million. By today, they would be worth $400 million. However, one of the big drawbacks of Bitcoin that emerged in the early days is that it can fall in value just as fast as it rises. There are a long list of times when the value of Bitcoin would fall 80 to 90% from its peak value, destroying the investments of anyone who bought when the price was high. One example is some chump who put in $10 after Bitcoin went from $60,000 to $40,000, thinking he was getting a deal. Anyway, another big problem with Bitcoin is the amount of electricity it wastes. Remember how mining Bitcoin takes a lot of computing power? Yeah, it turns out that takes a lot of electricity. electricity that is usually generated by burning fossil fuels. This is the reason that Tesla stopped taking Bitcoin as payment for cars. People are working on this problem, but I'm not really sure who, since the whole blockchain is decentralized. If this problem is fixed, Bitcoin has a chance of going even more mainstream and seeing more massive returns. But for the time being, I would still only invest money that you are willing to lose.